everyone. Welcome back to Cardvoyant. I'm Kris and I'm your Cardvoyant. And I'm really sorry that it's taken me a while to get back to this. It's so, I was going to say funny, but funny probably isn't the word, how life gets in the way sometimes, or how you think that you're on the brink of something. This happens often with clients. I'll have people ask me about this, but you think you're just about to start something, it's just about to happen, and then there's roadblocks or things that come up, or new things that you have to deal with. And it's kind of been like that. I always uh, think that those are helpful things. I mean, we have to refocus, or maybe we learn something that we didn't know before, or we go in a slightly different direction because of the things that happen. But anyway, I'm back. We're going to talk about the number four today in our little series here on repeating numbers. I do have during this time, as I just stated, during this time when I've had to kind of refocus on things and do things a little differently, and some things have come up and all that kind of stuff. I had some different ideas for things to do on the channel, and maybe even on other platforms. So I will hopefully be getting to that as well. So we'll have this a bunch of stuff happening, hopefully. And then I've talked several times about, this like new adventure that I'm going to start. And that's actually like semi-started, and hopefully I'll be able to continue with that. And I'll let you know, because obviously I'm going to post about it when it gets going. But today, the number four. Now, we've talked about twos and threes, but in general, remember, these are messages from our guides, and it is sort of incumbent upon us to think about it, look inside, and think about what these numbers mean to us, or what it feels like to you. I'll give you this sort of general information, but things change message-wise according to who the message is for and the specific instance. You may see fours at a specific time in your life, and it's very telling, what it means in that time. And it may change slightly 10 years down the road if you start seeing them again, but it is a recall to that original time. So there's always that sort of consistency within the idea of change when it's specifically needed for a specific instance. So let's talk about fours today. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle, ask about the number four and what it means when we see repeating fours. And we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. I do have ideas like myself, kind of what I think about fours. I've always slightly associated them with the very big topic of work, just something about like work, but we'll see if that comes up, and that may be more specific to me. So we'll see what my guides and our master guides have to say. Shuffle for a while here. I'll cut some of this out because I'll shuffle for a long time. Okay, so I was shuffling, asking the question about the number of fours and when we see repeating fours, what it means. And as I did, I just had it in my head that this would be three cards, a 3-card reading. But as I was shuffling, it's like, okay, 3 cards, and then like, no, 4. It's got to be 4 cards. 4 cards about the number 4, of course, makes sense. So let's see what we have here. We've got the 9 of Swords, the King of Swords, the Star, and the Emperor. Interesting cards. It's very interesting to start off with 2 sword cards, or with any sword cards, because Sword cards just in general can be challenging cards. Look at this Nine of Swords. It doesn't exactly look cheerful. This is just, the nature of sword cards. They're very much about our thinking mind, how we process information, um, the way we use like our brain, our physical brain. Now, sometimes, and we'll see this a little bit in the King of Swords, it talks about our connection, like connecting that very physical self with our spiritual self, or allowing our minds to do that. But in general, they're very much just about like how we process information, our thought patterns often. And that's very prevalent in this Nine of Swords. I will say that swords can be so helpful, like this idea of defending yourself, cutting through things, guiding a pathway. All of these things have to do with sword energy, but sword energy also, swords, right? They can do harm. They can be double-sided. They can be sharp-edged. They can cut. They can wound, right? They have this ability, and our minds are like that. We can use our brains and our thinking, our thought patterns, obviously, to do all the wonderful things that we do in the world, but they can sort of trap us, our thoughts and uh, our thought patterns and the way that we process information, the things that we think about. They can be real traps in a way, and they can harm us in a way. So what does this have to do with us seeing the number four? Well, let's look at it. This Nine of Swords is very, you can see all these thoughts, okay. So there's all these thoughts. I'm sorry, if I say okay, it's sometimes like, oh, I get it. I get what they're trying to say to me. So all of these swords, traditionally, when I read this card, they're like these thoughts or these worries or these things that we go over and go over again in our mind, often replaying events, but often like worries. And here they are stacked up on the wall here. This person who's obviously literally being kept up at night because of whatever these thoughts are, these worries are, these remembrances. Sometimes you come home from a party, you think, oh, what did I say? I said this and this and I shouldn't have said that. Or you replay conversations that, oh, I could have done this better. Oh, this is what I would have said if I had to do it over again. That's these kind of thought patterns that, just like this, is like Nine of Swords, like climbing a ladder. We go up the ladder thinking of these things, we come down, think of them again. And they're saying that fours particularly are about breaking up these thought patterns. Now, I mentioned that I often associate them with work, things that have yet to be done or that we need to do to accomplish something that we want to accomplish. But they're saying that, yes, that's true, but in this way. When we see fours, it's immediately breaking things up. They want me to mention that, like, fours, when we write them like this, or either way, these very distinct lines, there's like not a curve to them. Think of them like the sword cards. They're drawing that parallel of the swords and the sharp angles of the number four, and they very much want us to recognize that, so that we break up these thought patterns in our mind, or try to think of new things, like a new way of looking at something. So it's maybe something that we're trying to accomplish, like very work related, but it can be something that we're trying to break free from, right? They're trying to help us realign our thought patterns, bring us to a new way of thinking. I'm trying to see if there's more. Swords sometimes, I think of them as almost navigational. You can see it in some of the sword cards, and they sort of bring you to a new place, or guide you to a new place, like the arrow on a compass almost. And they're saying that, think of either way that you write fours, whether it's like this or like sort of more triangular. It's almost like a sextant or something, where you can use it to look through to a new place, or like a new way of thinking, like guiding you towards something. And when you see the number four, they would like you to realize that too. it's like that open portion is like a telescope almost, bringing us to a new way of thinking, or sometimes literally kind of to a new destination in our lives, a place that we want to be, right? And sometimes we don't quite recognize where we want to be, but our guides will help us get there and sort of realign things to be to help us be in a place that we want to be. It's interesting because they're bringing me back to what I said at the beginning of this video, um, about the struggles that we have sometimes when we're on the brink of something, but it can bring us to a new place. And they're saying, that it was kind of like I was guided to say that because this is very much what's happening when we see the number 4. Sometimes, the numbers, the amount of 4s that we see, like I keep seeing 44, I keep seeing 444. They're saying it's like a timing thing. They're saying like sometimes, and this again is something that you have to think about in your own life. When we see these 4s, especially like multiple 4s, it's an indication of the amount of work or the amount of time left to go, or that we'll need to transpire, or that we're sort of involved in these goals that we have of moving forward. The King of Swords, I love king cards, but they can often be very strict or confining, very sure of themselves. This king can be kind of a know-it-all sometimes. And the queen has kind of a much softer energy, but we get the King of Swords because, again, that structure of the 4, it reminds us of this specific kind of work and kind of intensity that we're involved in. You can see King of Swords here is a little bit intense. And yet, even in the background, we see these trees again with like kind of the wind blowing here on the right side, this idea of the winds of change. Now, his sword is pointed almost straight up. And this is talking about like this joining of the physical and the spiritual, because we think of spiritual as up. That's like traditionally the way we symbolize it, the sort of heavenward look. And his isn't quite straight, right? We're working toward that. And that talks about these 4s and seeing them, this idea of working to that correct alignment or finding the exact solution or pathway to go, right? There's this little bit of work left, and we're being guided, we're being like shifted a little bit to help us find the right way. And our guides are always doing that. And we kind of know where we want to go, but sometimes we get, especially when we push and push and push, and we aren't listening as much to our inner voice, we may get slightly off course. And this is sort of a course correction that they're trying to help us achieve in our desire to move forward. And that's very much what the star card is about. I mean, the star card, which I love, I say that a lot about cards, but you do so many readings and you can see all these wonderful messages that come through for each individual card. So this star card, you can see that the water, which we know in tarot is always about like spirituality, the non-physical world, our connection to it, our intuition, our higher selves, all of those things, right? This star card, you can see the water here and the land, and this sort of water. It's like this cycle, right? The water being poured out onto the land, that goes back to the water, like the non-physical to the physical to the non-physical to the physical. This is not only about life cycles, like how we return to the non-physical world after our sojourn on Earth. It's also about this communication that we have in our lives. I mean, sometimes we are very good about going inside, thinking about these things, meditating in whatever way, connecting. And so we're very much listening to our intuition, but then sometimes we get sort of steeped in the very physical world, and we have to be brought back to, or we need to be brought back to that place where we're listening to our interior voice, to our guides, to our higher selves, to our intuition. And this is talking about 4s in that they recognize and they symbolize with those sharp sword-like angles that we are like too involved, too steeped in, too surrounded by the physical, and we need to sort of journey through that opening that we see in the four back to this connection to our non-physical selves, to our higher selves, to our guides. They want me to mention, and this came through a little bit in meditation. They want me to mention that right now, in this period in history, we're very much in a four moment. Right? We're trying, and our guides are trying. I mean, all of our guides are trying. I mean, we get the four card, the four major arcana card, as our last card, the Emperor. And they really want to emphasize this. We can, and we're trying, very, very many of us, to sort of break through this four moment and push through that opening in this very physical four time into this greater non-physical perspective. Now, here we have our last card, the four card, the Emperor, our major arcana card. And I know what this is about because I've gotten this, and I may have said this in another reading on this channel with you. I get this not often, but I have gotten it, especially within the last, like for the first time, I got this kind of message for the Emperor card during the pandemic. So, and I've had it a handful of times, really, only since that time, during the last couple of years. And this Emperor card literally refers to source, to the all it is, to the God source, to God, if you will. We think of this powerful red energy that you see in this card in the background. It's very fiery, right? In the clothes, the cloak and the cape that the Emperor wears, even in his armor, and his this sort of things that he's holding, this very strong energy, this globe. It's sort of, again, the spiritual and the physical, and the blue of his sleeve, the very Aries Mars energy here. It's not to emphasize this sort of warlike God, not at all. I mean, it's sort of this idea of source as leader, God on his throne kind of idea. But in this, I don't want to make this like a traditionally religious take on this card. It's trying to talk about the I was going to say dominance. I'm sorry that I'm hesitating because they want me to say predominance in my head. I'm thinking, okay, now is that a word that I can use? Is this good? But that's how they want me to say it. Predominance of source, of God, of love, because the universe is built on love. The God source is love, is love. That's the basis of everything. But the physical world is very dense, right? It's very dense, and we create our reality here, and it feels like a cloak on us now. And this is talking about fours in general, very sort of broad sense of fours. We can use this information about fours, but in the specific instance that this card is talking about, and in this moment in time, we have this very sort of heavy energy, and there's this message that fours remind us of, that we can always in our lives, individually, as families, citizens in towns and states and countries, we can push through this very sort of heavy four-like sword energy to what lies beyond, which is light and love. And very many of us are working toward this now in our on the planet, right? Trying to sort of poke holes in this very heavy, dense energy that is sort of coalescing. And of course, it's possible because, again, the Emperor card. This is the basis of the universe. This is always and forever the basis. We just have to find the balance that makes us connect more deeply with that instead of this very heavy Nine of Swords sort of earth energy. Now, that's the big picture here, and that's something to think about as we go forward as species, as humanity moves forward. But in our individual lives, are the fours that we see, especially when we're seeing repeating fours, they remind us of this same kind of energy. This, when we are very surrounded by this very sort of dense energy, we're dealing with these very specific things. We're dealing with difficult things. We're dealing with difficult people or situations or things that come up, something in the mail from the IRS, or something else in your life. And maybe it's many things. I mean, I think probably most often it is many things, because that's when we feel overwhelmed. That's when we feel this Nine of Swords energy, like, oh, there's this and there's this, and now I have to do this, and now this came up. That's just very sharp swords energy. And these fours remind us, when we see them, that look like these fours lined up, remind us that there's a way through. Right? It's very much a positive message, recognizing sort of the sharp angles of the many things in your lives that are in our lives that are like weighing us down and putting us in these very difficult thought patterns, because we do have to think about it, this and this and this, and I have to do this, and I have to overcome this. And they're reminding you, your guides, very, sweetly and kindly, that there is a way through, that we go through these things, this opening in the four to a brighter day. We're brought to things that help us grow, bring us to a better place, a brighter tomorrow. And that's the energy of the four, acknowledging what we're in, but bringing us and also acknowledging the ability to bring us and bring ourselves to this sort of brighter, better day. So that's sword energy. So I guess it does make that kind of sense that I talked about work, a little bit of work, but in a very positive way, letting us know that we are literally working through something, and that we can and will get through. Personally, and bigger sense, as we see with the Emperor card, but the Emperor card also applies to us as individuals. But as I talked about, in this bigger sense, moving toward a better tomorrow, a brighter future, a better way of being, and a more connected and loving and light way of being, as we move through and move past that sword energy. So there you have it. That's the message for fours. Hopefully this is helpful to you. Hopefully you can apply it to your lives and maybe understand a little bit better if you're seeing fours. And if you are, please also think personally what this means to you. I mean, this is a broad message to help you understand fours in your life, but they will, it will change according to the specific message to you. But your guides can help you understand that. Meditation and just thinking about it. Sometimes we get these messages in sleep or dreams. Think about the specific time and place and what you're doing and how it comes across when you're seeing the number four. Is it on roadsides? Is it something on TV? Is it on the clock? Is it in a book? That also, the way that they come sometimes has individual meaning for you. I hope to be doing more videos. I'm working on it. I'm working through that sword energy. Uh, Very shortly, I'll try to do some more symbolism uh, videos. I do have some things coming up that hopefully are short and sweet, but very interesting. So hopefully that's in the near future. Until then, thank you for watching this video. Thanks for being interested in these repeating numbers signs that we get. And until next time, I'll just say thanks again for watching and bye for now.